Does anybody remember My Brother and Me? I sure do. It's one of my favorite shows from the 90s Nick era. I feel most people remember it, but don't really know too much about it. Well, for one thing, did you know My Brother and Me only ran for 13 episodes? That's right. Doesn't it feel like more? That's because even though this show ended so quickly, it was still showing these episodes well into the late 90s, maybe even a little bit into the early 2000s. So it feels like this show was on for a long time. Another thing about this show is, like most 90s Nick shows, this was taped at Nickelodeon Studios in Universal Studios, Florida. A lot of the extras and roles from kids that were in just maybe an episode were kids from the tapings, which came from the theme park. So once you know that, it makes sense that these kids acted the way they did because they weren't actors. I never noticed this before until now, but My Brother and Me takes a lot of inspiration from Leave It to Beaver. Goo is an exact copy of Eddie Haskell. Both characters suck up to the mom and dad. Mom buys it, dad doesn't.
My, that's a wonderful fragrance you're wearing, Mrs. Parker. I'm sure every rose in the garden is turning green with envy.
Why, thank you, Milton.
Your dad's a nice guy, but he's no Cito Gaston. With the dad's coaching, we don't have any chance of winning.
You guys ready?
Why, hello, Mr. Parker. I was just telling Alfie and Dee Dee here that the Panthers are sure to go all the way this year due to your fine coaching.
He acts nice to the younger brother Dee Dee when they're around, but then bullies him when they're not. It's literally a copy and paste.
Alfie and Goo are going to play ball, and they won't let me come.
It won't kill you to spend the day with your brother, Alfie. Besides, I'm sure Milton won't mind, would you, dear?
Of course not, Mrs. Parker.
Good. That's settled. Have fun, boys.
Goodbye, Mrs. Parker. You just better walk behind us, chump.
And Alfie and Dee Dee are like Wally and Beaver. They have brother types of conversations, and Wally looks out for Beaver, just how Alfie is to Dee Dee.
Would you miss me, Alfie? Alfie?
I'm thinking. Yeah, I miss you.
The shows both center around the brother relationship, but not everyone is copied. There's Melanie, the older sister. She's a teenager and the oldest. She thinks very highly of herself and thinks she's perfect and is smart.
I gotta tell ya, the lucky girl who buys these clothes is gonna be the second best dressed person in town.
Who's the best dressed?
Me, of course.
What are you going on about now, girl?
Her favorite subject, herself.
Goo has a crush on her and she always rejects him. She also has a best friend, Dion. Goo always makes fun of her, like with her hair.
0, 1, 2, 3. Sure looks like a whip to me. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun.
Goo, what do you want?
The same thing you want. For Dion to leave us alone till weekend. Why, hello, Mrs. Parker.
There's also Donnell and Harry. They're Dee Dee's best friends. Even though this show was short-lived, it did have its moments. Obviously, I'm gonna mention Goo Punch. This is hands down the most memorable from the show. When you think of My Brother and Me, first thing that will most likely come to mind is Goo Punch. There were lots of recurring comedy bits. One was with Dion. Whenever she talked, she would go on into this rambling mode of a problem that could happen.
How about going to the movies?
That would be all right.
Great.
But it's going to be cold in the movies, and I'll be sitting behind someone with big hair, and I won't be able to see the screen. I'll probably run into Tim, and I'll have disgusting popcorn breath, and he'll never speak to me again. And then where will I be?
Alone, because you're getting on my nerves.
She also talks about her boyfriend Tim a few times. We never actually see him though. The dad also had one too. Well, first, he's a sports writer, so that got some athletes on the show. They got Kendall Gill and Dennis Scott from the NBA fame. Pretty neat, even though in real life he wasn't really a sports writer. Anyway, the dad would always go on with his stories about him and Uncle Lawrence. He would try to give him a life lesson through it, but they would always know it's coming. This happened in almost every episode, and they would always try to run away.
Yeah, Alfie. You should have seen the outfit your Uncle Lawrence rigged me up in. The pants were too big.
Sorry, Dad. I gotta go finish my math.
You gotta come down sometime.
Almost all the characters had moments where you would hear what they were thinking, sort of like an inner thoughts thing. This was in every episode and would always be something funny.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Parker. How was your day today?
Believe me, Milton, you don't even want to know.
You got that right.
Probably the funniest segments are when Goo hits on Melanie. He just doesn't take a hint, and when she rejects him, he just keeps trying. Every time she sees Goo, you can tell by her reaction, she does not care for him at all.
So, Melanie, would you like to go to the movies with me?
I'll think about it.
Oh! What's wrong?
I just thought about it.
Hey, you want to walk to school with us, Melanie?
And let people think I'd associate with you? I don't think so.
She's warming up to me. She hates you, Goo. So, my aunt and uncle hate each other, and they've been married for 15 years.
One thing about this show is, I felt that the start and the end of the shows were weak. Every episode starts with Dee Dee and Alfie having a conversation. For me, it was a hit or miss. These punchlines were so weak. Is that supposed to be laugh out loud funny? It barely gets a giggle. But these were the beginning of the season, so I'm sure it would have gotten better if the show ran longer.
I really miss Mama. Dee, she's only been gone an hour.
Some of my favorite episodes are when Dee Dee and Harry need to learn how to dance for Donnell's birthday party. He brags how he's going to have a big kids party with a DJ. So they learn to dance, and it turns out Donnell didn't even know how. Or when Dee Dee gets a haircut like Cool Dr. Money. They meet a new kid named Kenny, and he says he's from Los Angeles. Dee Dee's first question is, do you know any famous stars? I know he's just a kid, but is that what people from other states think of people that are from LA? If you know any celebrities? I'm from LA, and I've barely even gotten close to one. When Dee Dee gets a haircut, his parents make him get it off, so Dee Dee gets very angry.
Did he have to go this far?
I hate you, Daddy. I hate you. I hate you.
Ouch, that's very harsh. I didn't expect that. So this show did have some drama moments. How could I forget Miss Piggy? She is definitely one of the funniest characters on the show. She works at the comic book shop everybody hangs out at. All this lady cares about is money. If she finds out you have no money, she kicks you out of the store. Even when they ask for something, she gets mad.
Give us 5 Texas-style chili dogs.
Give? Give is not in Mrs. Penny's vocabulary.
Excuse us. Will you sell us 5 Texas-style chili dogs?
Why, of course, baby.
Now this is a lady who means business. She's in about half the episodes, so we get to see lots of her. The basketball tryouts is good also. That's where the Goo punch is from. Alfie doesn't make the team because he's a ball hog. This whole episode is him not accepting that he didn't make the team. When his dad tries to cheer him up with how Michael Jordan didn't make the team on his first try, Alfie thinks,
Remember, Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team the first time he tried out. And look what happened to him.
Yeah, he's playing minor league baseball.
now that's funny. Or when the weekend Aunt Helen came over. I have no idea why this episode is called that. It's more about when Goo gets hit in the head and starts being the complete opposite of what he is. He likes Dion, he wants to be called Milton, his real name, he's nice to Dee Dee, and he doesn't like Melanie. It's funny seeing him be so different, but of course he changes back. There were some episodes that I feel had no funny lines in it at all, just completely forgettable, like the Robin Hood play. It's the same thing as that Boy Meets World episode where Corey didn't want to wear tights. Alfie doesn't want to wear tights. Same exact thing. Or the very first episode where they need to work at a charity auction. And that's the first episode. One episode I feel they did way too early is having Melanie and Goo be together. Alfie's birthday is coming up and both are planning a surprise, but Alfie keeps seeing them together, so he wants to know what's going on. That's when Goo says they're dating and Melanie goes along with it. She even kisses him to make it look more memorable.
How you like me now, fellas?
I think this should have been saved for way later in the show's run. It was funny seeing Goo always being rejected and then seeing this. It was too soon. But the show did end so quickly, so maybe it was good they did it. But still. Probably another memorable moment from the show was Dee Dee yelling, "Hit me." He's being bullied by a girl, so Goo and Alfie give him advice to make him act tough so she can be scared, but it doesn't work. This was also the final episode. So why did this show end so quickly? It was high rated in its first run, and it was high rated even in its reruns. The actor who played Dee Dee was interviewed back in '07, and he said that the producers and writers had a falling out due to creative differences and the show couldn't go on, so it was cancelled. That's pretty sad to hear. This show had everything it needed to be successful. These episodes were only the early stages. If it continued, it could have been one of Nick's most successful shows ever. But we all still love My Brother and Me. It stayed on for so long that it felt like it lasted 4 years instead of just half a year. I don't think any show today could ever pull that off.